The Red Team was designed to replicate the tactics and equipment that terrorists would use. What we did in 1996 was we put bombs on the plane in Frankfurt, looked like a real explosive, and it smelled like a real explosive. It just didn't go boom. You don't just, like, on one day put like 10 bombs through the system and see what happens. We had mules that we sent over from the United States that did the dirty work as the passengers. And I was actually disguised, if you want to call that, working in the baggage makeup area. My job was to find the bag and see what happened when it went through their bomb detection equipment. Anyway, if I remember right, we did 11 tests over the course of like a month and a half, and they missed every single one. Cathal Flynn, who was in charge of FAA security, he sent a letter to the German authorities and the U.S. air carriers over there. He gave them a warning saying, we're terminating the testing, but in a few months we're going to start it up again. We literally would have blown up 33 planes, even with the warning that they had that we were doing this. And at that point, they terminated the testing because it wasn't worth spending money with a 100% failure rate.
Mark Randall? Mark Randall was in the Red Team with us. Mark Randall got thrown out about every organization in the FAA. The reason I went to work with Bogdan in San Francisco on the CTX testing from Atlanta is because Mark Randall was so bad, so jumpy, so obvious that he got arrested by the police and had to get the special police we were working with to get him out. The airline refused to work with him, so we traded place. He was thrown out of ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, up in Montreal. He was thrown out of FAA Europe in Brussels. The TSA hired him and made him a federal security director at Missoula. People went berserk out there.
Prior to that, he was in charge of FAA security at Dulles.
That's right. And he's now at the Department of Homeland Security. Jane Garvey, head of FAA security. She went up to the Democratic National Convention, I think it was in 2004, to be a security consultant. Cathal Flynn, who should have been executed for treason, is a security consultant for LAX, Los Angeles. He's on a retainer, I've understood, for TSA as security consultant. So all these people have been allowed to prosper, they've gotten rewards, they've been promoted, they did stuff before 9/11, they were promoted, and this goes across the board. FBI, Customs, all of them. They all throw them into a new organization. What's their incentive to change?
I still work at TSA headquarters. The sense of urgency is, you could go to the mall, to a shoe store, and find a greater sense of urgency about terrorism than you get at TSA headquarters. I remember when I was doing testing in the late 90s and early 2000, 2001 timeframe, we actually had some really good people on the Red Team. When we were doing testing, I remember, particularly in South America, we'd submit a bomb through the system, but in order to make sure that there's not an overreaction by some fluke if they happen to find this device, we followed the suitcase wherever it went. And here we're watching, families get on the plane, and, little kids and old people and everything else.
And bombs.
And bombs. And we're just thinking, like, but for the grace of God, this is a joke that we're doing here. You do that once or twice, and it's like, maybe it's just a fluke. But you do this 100 times, and they miss 99 of them. It's like, we got a serious problem here.